everybody, welcome back. This is Bookstr, and I'm Julia Sun. I have two guests today, not very typical. Usually we just have one. We have Cami Garcia. She is the New York Times best-selling author, and we have Gabriel Picolo. He's an illustrator, and so I've been told an Instagram artist and slash sensation, and they together worked on this graphic novel called Teen Titans Raven. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Look, I read this book, graphic novel. I don't read a lot of graphic novels, but really interesting story. So I want to start with you, Cami. And by the way, all of you know the drill. If you have any questions, please leave us comments on our page, and I will ask the guest after I get my questions out of the way. So I want to start with you, Cami, which is this series. It's about a strong female character. Right.
Yes.
And then when I read this, the part that really touched me was, of course, the story and the illustration was wonderful, but the part that touched me the most was actually, when you said, when I was a teenager, I've been told I'm too young. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do all these things. And I sort of felt the same way when I was 15. I was like, you don't know anything. You're just a teenager. And I'm sure that inevitably led you to crafting a character like this. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how this came about?
Yeah, I actually taught for 17 years before I was a writer, so I've spent a lot of time with teenagers, and I felt that way, and like you said, they still feel that way. It's always the same. And I really wanted to write about a character that was relatable, that teens, that's one reason why in this book the characters don't wear costumes. Yeah. They wear regular clothes, because I really wanted the characters to be relatable so that a real teen could see themselves in the character or imagine Raven, as their friend, someone they know, so that they could really take something away from it. When I read a lot, and I love to be able to picture myself in the story or as one of the characters or hanging out with them. And I think it's one step removed when everyone's kind of in costume or flying, and so she still has powers, and it's still supernatural. Yeah. But she's wearing some cool, normal clothes.
Yeah, and I hear you, because one of the shirts that she was wearing, tank top she was wearing, has the line, "Black is my happy color," yes. Right? And that's actually, it's not exactly the same, but I remember somebody I went to high school with sort of wearing something like that. Totally relatable. Yeah. Definitely. And then Gabriel, again, welcome to the show. As you know, Bookstr, we have over 1.5 million viewers, but not everybody is a die-hard graphic novels fan. Not everybody goes to the Comic-Con all the time, right? Myself included. So for those of us who are not, die-hard fans, can you explain to me, what exactly does an illustrator do? Of course, you work very closely with the author, but which parts overlap and which parts are separate?
So I come from an illustration background. So before working on this comic, I was working for hire, for getting commissioned to do illustrations. And this was my first time actually getting a script and having to transform that into drawings, into panels, and a story going on. So me and Cami, we discussed a lot about, especially character interactions, getting those expressions nailed down, and like Cami said, making those teenagers feel relatable in the story, visually speaking. So that was my biggest challenge. I'm so happy that we were keeping contact all the time, talking about obsessing over the characters and how they would behave, how they would dress and all that stuff. So
okay. Obviously you two discuss the plots, the characters, the emotions, all that all the time. But what would you say is the part that only an illustrator is responsible for?
I think, and that's a really interesting question. I think, especially when you're developing, when you're creating the scene, actually picturing the scenes. So, for example, where the camera is going to be on that scene, that is something that Cami usually doesn't think. She doesn't have this visual creative mind, and then that's what I try to bring to the table. So
got it.
I'll describe it in basic terms, and then he has to figure out how much am I going to
spatial,
show, which view, and which makes a huge difference, because if it's not done well, it
Yeah,
impacts
it's very
the reading
flat.
experience.
It's like when you make a film, you think about the lines,
Exactly.
where are
Exactly.
the camera angles, and now you're drawing it out,
Yeah.
and you're
I
like,
think that was
yeah.
that was the
It is
biggest
kind of
thing.
like a film. It's very much like a storyboard almost
Yeah, it's
for a
visual.
film.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Cami, you, as I said in the beginning, you're a New York Times best-selling author. Your work has been published, seen around the world and translated into dozen languages.
48
Yeah.
languages.
How do you feel about that, and how is that impacting your career right now and going forward?
I mean, I love it because I have fans all over the world, and so like we're bestsellers in Brazil, so it makes me very aware. I'm always concerned about, like right now, DC's working on distribution for other countries. I'm always concerned, like, can my readers in other countries get it, and can we translate things? One thing that I think is really cool, these graphic novels were designed for people who kind of, could be a new graphic novel reader.
Sure.
And one of the things I like about it is there are a lot of scenes where even without the words, before the lettering and the words were added, like you can tell just from his art what's happening.
From the expression.
So I feel like that is really helpful because some people also want to read it in the original language it was written in, and it might not be their native language. So I think it's really cool to think that like the art is really helping them with the story.
And
Yeah.
having fans demanding the story to be translated.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
awesome.
when is it coming out in Spain?
Yes.
I mean, you're Brazilian.
Yes.
And so you speak, other
Portuguese,
languages,
yes.
obviously. But like, Cami, how many languages do you speak?
I speak one language.
One language, which
And I
is
speak-
English.
But I speak many food languages, like, because we are bestsellers in a lot of countries, and we've been on tour. And Margie and I, my co-author on Beautiful Creatures, we've been to like Italy, Spain, France, somewhere else.
Brazil?
Barcelona, which is different. The language is slightly different.
It's different dialects.
So like I can recognize food in many languages. Like so,
sounds
and
like
I can
me.
ask for like a cab in other languages.
Right.
But
I
that's it.
I can haggle a little bit in a few
Right.
languages. All right, and then one last thing, and then we'll go to the audience questions, which is you guys work together. How long have you been working together? And what's the creative process like?
So I'm trying to remember now.
I mean,
Has
because
it
from
been
the
like a
outside,
year?
it's like a magic box, and I understand you guys spend a lot of time together.
Yeah,
You're, like,
it's over a
husband,
year,
work.
Over a
right?
year.
Okay.
Over a year, yeah.
So it's hard because I can't like. So first, once I got the project and was greenlit, I had to look for artists, and so they sent me a lot of famous artists that were all great. But again, as you pointed out, like one of the things that was really important to me was for this to feel very relatable for teens. For this to feel, even if you're an adult, for you to be able to remember what that felt like. So none of the art really nailed it. Like they didn't, have that. It's kind of like it when you see it. Like I don't know exactly what I want, but I'll know it when I see it. And I had seen his work on Pinterest because I was like hunting around for art. And I was like, I want it to be more like this because he draws a series called Casual Teen Titans where they're wearing regular clothes. And I was like, this is what I want. And they're like, well, no one does that except for him.
Yeah.
And so I was really surprised because I thought that meant no. But DC actually was like, well, we could contact him.
Yeah.
And so I was really excited that they were willing to take a chance on someone who hadn't done it before, especially since I also had not done it before.
Yeah.
But they got us, our editor was very experienced, and then we have assistant editors, and they got a layout artist, which really helped.
Yeah.
But we've been, it's been over a year.
Yeah. And then the other part.
And I think we grew up so much through the process because kneeling down those pages became much more comfortable as the book went on, I think.
And then I just want to point out the other thing that occurred to me was, other than the T-shirt, the tank top part, was there was a cafeteria scene.
Yes.
I thought it was very real.
Oh,
that's
that's awesome.
seriously, I thought it was very real. I think I could realistically see that happening in the middle school I went to. I was never involved in a fight, and even if I were, I don't want to admit it on camera. And I could see that's a very realistic scene, like people just like
Arguing.
argue with each other.
But it's like, that's what he's very good at, those capturing like those expressions and like the mannerisms to make it look realistic.
Yeah. And then, okay, I will start with a question from Matthew. Hi, Matthew. What projects do both of you have upcoming or in development?
So we are both currently together working on Beast Boy, Teen Titans Beast Boy, which is the next book in the series. And if you get Raven. There's a sneak peek, a preview in the back.
Yep.
And then I'm also working on an adult project for DC for their adult line. It is called Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. So it's a procedural about the serial killer, the Joker, and but it's not for the same, unless you're a grown-up, it is not for the same audience as Raven.
Yeah. Okay. And then for you, any other projects that
Right now I'm working on Beast Boy, who's coming out next year, and I'm also drawing my own graphic novel, Icarus and the Sun, which is being online for a while, and I'm finally putting it together into books coming out late December.
Okay. And then Eric, hi Eric, he wants to know, not having costumes for, quote, relatability, will ever see these superhero characters in their costumes?
I don't know. I mean, we've had events so far, and people are cosplaying the versions that Gabriel drew.
Yeah.
Girls showed up in their, black is my happy color, and their hand-drawn, like, Raven jackets, and so...
Because there's always a little detail that makes that character stand out, that it's not like just regular, you know? There's always that small detail. So, for example, Raven, she has always her iconic red jewel.
Yeah.
So those sort of details that we try to apply to our character so that they don't lose their what makes them unique.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, the illustrator, how do you define costume anyway?
Costume is something that I'm not very comfortable in drawing, so that's why I shied away from costumes and try to draw more casual designs, because that's what I enjoy doing. And that's like I love street fashion. I love sneakers. I'm obsessed with sneakers.
So to me, it's not about how casual versus formal.
Well, it's more about like this. It's more about like
characters.
the superhero element. So like my daughter, for example, is younger. She's a huge Raven fan.
Okay.
So she has cosplayed the version with cape, but she is actually cosplaying at Comic-Con Gabriel's version. So she has like her tall Converse, and she got the T-shirt, and she's like all ready. So I think you can actually cosplay the characters. We did try to make sure that they had elements in their outfits that people could like replicate at home if they want to cosplay, because cosplaying is fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And then a question from Dawn: why was Raven chosen as the character for this book?
She's the best. I pitched, obviously, the origin stories for several characters, and Beast Boy and Raven tend to be the most recognizable in the Titans. So I think because Raven is also, she has shades of kind of what I'm known for in Beautiful Creatures, the angsty kind of strong female character, but also, she has supernatural powers, which I love to write. So, and I feel like I'm glad that we started with her, because now I have way more ideas for just like little touches and things to add to Beast Boy.
Sure. I mean, once you get it going.
I feel like if you
you're
start in
I
your
could take it
wheelhouse,
so many directions.
it's easier to kind of like branch out.
Yeah. And then Tiffany actually wants to know, are we going to be seeing any of the characters featured in Raven in any other Titan series?
So, but what we can say is that some very familiar characters, some beloved characters and villains, and they do show up. They do show up. Yeah.
And
Not to be so we don't have any
she's
spoilers.
asking
Well,
about
I have a guess, but
Okay.
but she's also asking about new characters. Like that's a possibility.
Okay.
Someone asked me that last night. They said, "Oh, will Max be in any other books?" And I was like, "I don't know."
And then we have a question from Shia Hardy for Gabriel.
Yeah.
How did you get this job? I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but tell us a bit more. How did you get this job?
Yes.
And how did DC end up picking you?
So I've been posting my work on social media for a long while now, and especially because I'm Brazilian, social media, having a social media presence is essential for me to put my work out there. I started doing this series of drawing the casual Teen Titans. I was putting a lot of content, putting out a lot of content, and at some point, DC, they were looking for someone to do those graphic novels, and those kind of aligned what with the stuff that I was already doing. So we actually even have a funny story behind this, because DC sent me a couple of emails before I actually took the job, because I thought for a long while that those emails were a scam. So when I finally decided to answer them, like, okay, this is real. It was then that I started working together with
Did
Cammy.
you think it was scam because it was too good to be
Too
true?
good, exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Because
You're
I've
like,
been
this could-
wanting to do those characters because
Okay.
they're my favorites.
You're like, somebody read my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah,
don't know if
when I
this is
picked
real.
him, they were like, he has one more week, and then you have to pick someone else. They're like, because he will not respond to our email. And I said, I bet he thinks they're fake. If I would think they're fake. But then finally, he must have been like, maybe they're real. I'll write back. So I lucked out.
Okay. And then Donna wants to know, a little repetitive, but I'm going to ask this one anyway. I think it's a very important question.
Sure.
What was your favorite part of the collaboration process?
I really liked how Cammy was close to the actual drawings, because I know how I have comic artists who are my friends, and I know that sometimes we receive like a code script, like the author just hands out the script and you have to draw it. But me and Cammy, we actually got to talk like, what will the characters, what are they going to wear, and like, is this expression showing this specific scene? Is it correct? You know, so I enjoyed that Cammy was so close to the project.
Because I've heard from other illustrators, like they've been thrown a cold script, like you said, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna take it.
And that's okay.
whatever
That totally
my
happens.
direction.
Yeah.
And then afterward, the author was like, no, this is totally not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure this saved you a few iterations.
Exactly.
Right. So how many iterations did you have to throughout the process?
We were just kind of working on it like simultaneously. So like he didn't like turn it in formally. It would be like he would write me and be like, what do you think of her in this sweatshirt?
And then we would just tweak something
and I'd
real
be like,
quick.
I like that jacket. He's like, okay, wait, I'm not done. And then he'd be like, do you like these shoes or those shoes? So it was almost like I got to see things in process, and then when he would turn in a design, it was kind of like I already saw the pieces. So I was like, yes, it's so awesome. So there wasn't a lot of like things being rejected, because I felt like he was already, or he'd be like, wait, don't pick, I'm sending one more thing.
The back and forth happened between us before we sent to the editor.
Got it.
So.
So he would just be like, I'm thinking this, and
okay.
It
And
was
then
fun.
I want to talk about this character I really like, Max, because Alex Garcia wants to know, how did you come up with Max's personality and design? She is, capital letter, awesome!
So I wrote Max from the beginning. She is loose. Some of her personality traits are loosely based on one of my friends from high school, who's very sassy. But I didn't have a super strong idea kind of what she looked like. I knew she was going to be African American. I knew kind of I wanted her to be tall, but like I didn't have all, I had no idea of like what did her face look like. And so when I got together with Gabriel, he was like super excited to draw her. So we talked about like hair and stuff like that. And it was weird because first we had to get like her face and stuff. And then he started being like, okay, when else are you going to wear? But it was really cool because usually, obviously, if I create a character, they live in my head. So like I know what they look like and they're alive. But it's like with this, it was like all of a sudden she really was a real thing. Because I got a drawing back and all of a sudden she was a real character on paper. And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Okay. We have a question from Ziad for Gabriel, or as he puts it, Mr. Picolo.
Mr. Picolo.
He said, I would like to ask Mr. Picolo, what's your process, and do you have any tips for aspiring artists? If I could elaborate on that, because I feel it's, of course you're great, but it's also luck. Of
course,
the
luck
process,
plays
right?
exactly.
They found you, and I'm sure you've been pitching yourself all over the place, but at the end of the day, they found you. And I also want to add on to this question, which is, how do you know what to put out? Because I'm sure you're versatile. I'm sure this is not the only thing you can do.
I think there's a lot of luck involved, and you have to be ready when the opportunity hits. You have to have this. You need the skills. You need like to know the know-how to get the opportunities when they hit you, when they happen. So one tip I always give to fellow illustrators is, one of the biggest skills that you can have is composing a scene. Because a lot of people focus on drawing characters, and that's necessary, and that's super enjoyable to draw, but you also need to draw environments. You need to know how to use light in your favor, atmosphere. Because when you create a scene, that puts you ahead of so many illustrators working right now. So that's my biggest tip.
They pointed that out too, because a lot of people, when you find them on Instagram, they just have like
Portraits.
a cute girl.
Yeah.
And with him, what I specifically showed them certain pictures. Like there's this cool one where he has the Titans hanging out like outside of like a hotel.
Yeah.
And I sent them ones where there's backgrounds. because if you want to do picture books or you want to do comics, if the place doesn't know that you can do, publishers know you can do backgrounds, they're not going to necessarily take a chance on you. But because he had so much work with backgrounds, they were like, well, we know he can draw everything. It's just now like, can he draw like, on the schedule?
Yeah, yeah. And
Which he
then
could.
I just had like a designer on
Yep.
my show. I mean, not this particular show, but she told me sort of the same thing, even though she's not an illustrator. Which is it's great that you can do a logo, but it's more important that you do the whole thing. You do the whole branding. You
Exactly.
do a card. You do
Yeah.
everything. You do a
Totally
website,
makes
so
sense.
you show you can do the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very, very important. And then from Corey Flexton, also for Gabriel.
Sure.
Did you draw any inspiration from Icarius the Sun for this project? And if so, what elements?
One thing, Icarus and the Sun is my own personal project, and one thing that I learned doing that story is working on characters' relationships. So, for example, not to be no spoilers, but Raven does get into relationship,
Sure.
and whenever I'm drawing a relationship, I take the baggage that I have with my own personal project, which is about a relationship. So I think that's my biggest experience from that.
Okay. And then from Edith Navarro, I love you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Will it arrive in Mexico?
Soon, very soon. Probably,
so.
probably next year.
Okay.
Yeah, or
Soon,
maybe
very
sooner.
soon.
Yeah.
DC is working really hard on, distributing it in other countries and in people's native languages. So.
Yeah, because I was in Mexico before. I had a great time. I hope to come back there.
Yeah. And then from Esther Van de Bond, I'm so happy for you that this dream became a reality. What was the most fun parts to work on, and what was the biggest struggle?
Kemi? I think.
No, I think it's for you. It's
Okay.
Because I think one thing people are so excited about is, and he's not. I mean, it's luck, but also, Gabriel's been putting up work online for like years. So part of it is also that he has consistently put work up on a place like Instagram, or I actually found another artist for a cover for something on DeviantArt. It's like putting your work out there, and so I think it's so fun to see how excited people are for him, because they have watched his his Instagram feed,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, you got the thing. So I think she's asking what's it like to have the dream come true?
Yeah.
My favorite part of the whole process was the ending. Of course, I can't talk about it
Yeah,
much because that'll have spoilers. But that was the most exciting part to draw, because so much stuff
Okay.
happens, and it's
Yeah.
it's heart wrenching. You guys have to read it.
And
Okay.
he likes drawing the outfits.
Yes, yes.
From Justin David, I am based in the UK.
Okay.
Where can I find a signed copy? Gabrielle, I love your work. And Cami, I'm so looking forward to reading it.
I am not 100% positive. In the past, there are bookstores like Book Depository that, mail everywhere. But I don't know yet how this one works because it's, recent.
Yeah.
So I'm not positive. I'm going to actually ask. There are a lot of stores we've been doing stock signings in comic stores, and I'm going to ask. Some of them do ship internationally.
Yeah.
So I want to see if I can maybe Gabriel and I will try to put a list together, and we can put it on our social media.
Yeah,
because
I'm telling-
I
I'm
know
telling-
people are asking about that.
Yeah.
I'm
How
telling
about- yeah.
everyone, as soon as I have any news about that, I'm totally sharing on
Yeah,
social
because
media.
again, I have, our books are in the UK and in
Yeah.
Australia, so it's and we want readers to be able to read it everywhere.
Exactly.
Sure. And how about after you two, or one of you, find out about this, just leave us a comment under
Yes.
Absolutely.
on our page, on
Definitely.
our show's page, and then tell all our readers, all our viewers about
Yes.
what's up. Okay. From Eric Weiss, I got very excited about the red X mark I've seen. Is that part of this series, or is there a possible expansion of that character?
We can't talk about that.
You can't
no,
talk
no,
about
we
that.
can't talk about
Okay.
that. No.
Okay. When can you talk about it?
Maybe soon.
Okay.
Because we and Kemi need to discuss all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then from Shia Hardy, Cami, what's the process of writing a comic? That's okay. Do you script and block everything out?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I've written scripts before, so it wasn't completely unfamiliar, but also I don't like writing description and transitions and stuff, even in my novels. I like to write character relationships, dialogue, and like action. So this was very naturally fun. But the tricky part is that you have to describe the panels. So when I'm writing the script, I have to say like page 1, and then let's say there's 3 panels. I have to say like panel 1, shot of Raven's high school and children, kids walking around in front of the parking lot. And then I might have, and then I'll put if there's any dialogue. But then I might put like, panel 2. Raven and Max walking toward the school, and then I'll put like an actual movie script. I'll put Raven, and she says like, I wish we didn't have to go to school today. Right. I do describe the panel, and then I think I don't have to describe it as much as some people do, because now that I know Gabriel's work, I kind of know what he likes to do. So if I'm just like, they're going to be in the hallway and there's going to be a lot of cool people walking around, I don't have to describe everything else because I know he'll come up with the lockers and the cool scene.
Sure.
So that's the fun of working with someone and not doing the cold script, is that I know I can count on him, or I could just write and say hey, make this a typical high school, or make this a little different than your average high school.
One thing that Cami does to guide me through the pages is telling if a panel is going to be big or the biggest on the page, or if a panel is going to be small. So that helps me a lot when I'm prioritizing, creating this hierarchy of what you're going to look at on the page. So that helps me so much.
It's very technical. I write big in parentheses.
Yeah.
So there's no misunderstanding whatsoever. You communicate.
Right, because again, like he said, he has to do this hard part of figuring out are we looking at them from behind or above or the side, and so one of my favorite pages, this is not a giveaway because it's not it's a big moment to me, is Max and Raven are walking through the doors into school for the first time together, and I love that page. But I needed to show that they were walking into school, so my editor was like, you have to show at the school or something, and establish a shot so we know what it is. And I was like, okay, so I said a facade of a school, and then in parentheses I put really small, and then I was them walking in, I was really big.
Yeah, like the gym, one of the gym scenes.
So that way he knows, or the cafeteria, I'll write just something focus on their table. So, but I don't know what I'm gonna get. Sometimes I'll open it and then there'll be other table. That scene was really cool. because I was like, how's he gonna draw the cafeteria?
Yeah, that was really cool. Okay, some of our viewers want to know, and I'm just gonna ask this again, what graphic novels are both of you working on next? And I want to get your last thoughts on graphic novels before we wrap this up.
Okay, so our next graphic novel together is Teen Titans Beast Boy. Which, by the way, is my favorite character. Everyone knows that, so I'm having a blast working on it. And I'm super excited. Hopefully everyone loves Raven, and I can't wait to see their thoughts on the preview, Beast Boy preview on the back.
Okay. Yeah, there's a whole chapter in the back.
Yeah.
And then Gabriel's working on Icarus in the Sun, his solo project, which his Instagram fans know he's posted stuff. And then I am also doing Beast Boy, and then I'm doing a adult comic for DC called Joker Harley Criminal Sanity.
Okay.
Which is fun.
Cool. And then one last thing, your Instagram handle, what is it?
It's underscore Picolo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And mine's Cami Garcia. I'm pretty much Cami Garcia in those places.
Or I'm Julia Sun _ on there. Advertising for all of you. And either of you have a website you want to tell our viewers?
No, you can find me everywhere on social media as Gabriel Picolo or just Picolo.
CamiGarcia.com. And if you're interested in the book or any Beast Boy when it comes out, I always have a page on my site that has all the different retailers and where you can find it. And again, if you're international and I find out where they would ship, I'll tell them on your page. But I would put on my page I try to make it really clear. I would put for international readers, and then I would put the names of international stores that I know would ship to them.
Okay. Well, obviously both of you have a lot of work going on, and so please come back another day.
For sure.
But we'll leave it right here. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.